In this lesson, we will learn about configuring Active Directory size. First of all, we will review size configurations based on the network diagram. After that, we will perform configuring size, silinks, and silinks bridges. And finally, we sum up our lesson with the keynotes. Here is the network diagram for our AD Forest. Based on the network diagram, we will create three sites. The first site is Elgin, and we will associate it with the subnet 10.20.0.0/23. The second site is Chicago, and we will associate it with the subnet 10.0.0.0/23. Because Chicago is the data center, so we will associate it with the VPN subnet 10.172.0.0/20. The third site is Aurora, and we will associate it with the subnet 10.10.0.0/23. To connect Elgin and Chicago, we will create the silink 1. Then we will create silink 2 to connect Chicago and Aurora. Finally, we will create a silink bridge to connect Elgin and Aurora. Let's now perform the site configuration using this table. First, we will create Elgin site and move the domain controller LPVDC02 and LPVDC03 into it. Then we will create the subnet 10.20.0.0/23 and associate the subnet to Elgin site. After that, we will create Aurora site and move the domain controller LPVDC01 into it. Then we will create the subnet 10.10.0.0/23 and associate the subnet to Aurora site. Finally, we will rename the default first site name to Chicago, which now contains CPVDC01, CPVDC02, and CPVDC11 domain controllers. Then we will create the subnet 10.0.0.0/23 and 10.172.0.0/20, then associate the two subnets to Chicago site. Let's now create Elgin site. To do that, we need to right-click on the sites folder and select New Site. Here we type in the name Elgin, and we need to select the link name, default first site link, then click OK. That's it, we have just created the Elgin site. Now we need to move Elgin's domain controllers into it. To do that, we need to click on the servers folder. And to move the domain controller, we need to do it one by one. First, we will move LPVDC02. To do that, we need to right-click on the domain controller and click on Move. And we select Elgin site and click OK. That's it. Now we need to move LPVDC03. We just need to repeat the same step. So select Elgin and click OK. Now let's verify the server in Elgin site. As you can see, the two domain controllers LPVDC02 and LPVDC03 are now in Elgin site. Let's create the subnet for Elgin site. To do that, we need to right-click on the subnet and click on New Subnet. And here we type in the prefix 10.20.0.0/23, and we need to associate it to Elgin site. So we need to select Elgin and then click OK. That's it. We have just completed all the steps for Elgin site. Let's now create Aurora site. To do that, we need to right-click on the sites folder and select New Site. Here we type in the name Aurora and select the default first site link and click OK. And now we need to move domain controller OPVDC01 into it. So we select move and select Aurora site and click OK. Now we need to verify the domain controllers are in Aurora site, and you can see the domain controller OPVDC01 is now in Aurora site. Let's create the subnet for Aurora site. To do that, we need to right click on the subnet and click new subnet. And here we type in the prefix 10.10.0.0/23 and associate to Aurora site and click OK. That's it. We have just completed all the steps for Aurora site. For Chicago site, we just need to rename the default first site name to Chicago. To do that, we need to right-click on the default first site name, then click on rename. Then we type in Chicago, then hit enter. Let's click on the servers folder. As you can see, the domain controllers ShipPVDC01, ShipPVDC02, and ShipPVDC11 are in Chicago site. Let's create the subnet for Chicago site. To do that, we need to right-click on the subnet folder and click on New Subnet. And here we need to type in the prefix for Chicago site, which is 10.0.0.0/23 and associate it to Chicago site. Since Chicago is the data center, so we need to create the VPN subnet and associate it to Chicago site. The VPN subnet has the prefix is 10.172.0.0/20 and we need to associate it to Chicago and click OK. That's it. We have just completed all the steps for Chicago. Let's create site links using the information in this table. First, we will disable the default feature, bridge all site links. Then we will rename the default first site link to Elgin-Chicago and keep the default cost of 100 and configure it to replicate one time between 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. during business hours and every 1 hour after business hours. After that, we will create the Aurora-Chicago site link with the default cost of 100 and configure it to replicate every 1 hour. Before creating new site links, let's disable the default feature, bridge all site link. To do that, we need to click on the sites folder, expand the inter-site transport, then right-click on the IP folder and click on properties. Here we uncheck the bridge all site links, then click OK. That's it, we have just disabled the default feature, bridge all site links. Let's now rename the default first site link to Elgin-Chicago. To do that, we need to right-click on the link and click on rename. And here we type in Elgin-Chicago, then hit enter. Let's now configure it. To do that, we need to right-click on the Elgin-Chicago site link, then click on properties. Here we need to remove the Aurora site so that the site link only includes Chicago and Elgin site. Then click on OK. That's it. We have just configured the Elgin-Chicago site link, which only includes the Elgin and Chicago sites. Let's now configure the replication schedule for Elgin-Chicago sailing to replicate one time between 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. during business hours and every 1 hour after business hour. To do that, we need to right-click on the sailing and click on Properties. Here we click on Change Schedule. We know that the business hour is between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we need to select the time slot from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Then make the replication not available. After that, we need to select the time slot between 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and we also make the replication not available during that time slot. Then click on OK. Then here we change the replicate every 60 minutes and click OK. That's it. We have just completed our task. Let's now create the Aurora-Chicago sailing. To do that, we need to right-click on the IP folder, then click on New Sailing. Here in the name, we type in Aurora-Chicago. Then we add the Aurora and Chicago sites into the link and click OK. That's it. We have just created the Aurora-Chicago sailing that only includes Aurora and Chicago sites. Next, let's configure the Aurora-Chicago sailing to replicate every 1 hour. To do that, we need to right-click on the sailing and click on Properties. Here we change replicate every 60 minutes, then click OK. That's it. We have just completed our task. Since we disabled the default feature bridge all sailings, so to make the replication between Elgin and Aurora sites, we need to create the Elgin-Aurora bridge and include the two sailing Elgin-Chicago and Aurora-Chicago into the bridge. Let's now create a new sailing bridge, Elgin-Aurora-bridge. To do that, we need to right-click on the IP folder and click on New Sailing Bridge. And in the name, we type in Elgin-Aurora-bridge. And as you can see, the bridge automatically select the two sailings, Aurora-Chicago and Elgin-Chicago. So we are good. Just click OK. And that's it. We have just completed our task. This is the end of this lesson. Let's read the keynotes.